we get to a chart on this application page that names sins, quote unquote. Mind you, I'm looking at this chart. I'm like, whoa, what is this about? And then I finally look at the header, I guess the question, and it says, mark all of the sins or issues that you struggle with. And I was like, what the fuck? Because not only was there stuff like masturbation, pornography, like all of that sexual shit that you expect to be on a chart like that, right? There's also anxiety and depression. This is honestly one of the most egregious things that I have ever witnessed or seen in this campus ministry, and one of the things that I will remember like forever. Welcome to Worthy of Note, the podcast where one overthinking girly shares her various musings about the world with the world. I'm your host, Lauren Carlton. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Worthy of a Note. I know it's been a hot minute. It's been a stifling, sweltering, sweaty minute. I'm very sorry about that, but I do have reasons. I was sharing Wi-Fi with my neighbor for the duration of me living at my old apartment. That's another thing. I also have moved. So that was a big sort of factor in me not having the time or the energy, quite frankly, to sit down and record and edit a podcast episode. I like this place exponentially more than I did my old apartment. One of the reasons being, there are no melting or leaking appliances, which I feel like is not a lot to ask for, but you know, you become real grateful for the little things that you have that you didn't have before. So very happy. I'm settled in. I finally have been able to decorate my own place, which I didn't really get to do at my old apartment. This is probably my first time actually being able to fully furnish and decorate a space of my own. I just feel a lot more comfortable in this space and have been able to really channel my style and my taste into the space. Bars. So yeah, super excited. I think my last episode was about Bridgerton and how it led kind of sort of low-key to my deconstruction. There's still a lot of things that I need to unpack in terms of childhood, which is inextricably connected to religion and religious trauma and all of those things. I've been thinking about this in terms of concept and idea, and I thought now was the time to bring it up because Welcome Week was just a couple weeks ago. And if you don't know what a Welcome Week is, most colleges have them. I work at a university, so it's inevitable that I would kind of run into the back to school sort of wave. It's not usually a full week in most cases, but a few days essentially of events, free food, lots of boothing for different clubs and organizations around campus. One of many of these types of organizations that are typically present during Welcome Week are campus ministries. My thesis and my whole theory and or kind of truth as someone who's lived through it is that campus ministries are a pyramid scheme. Okay. At first, when I first thought about it, I was like, maybe not. Maybe that's a little harsh, but no. And I'm going to explain all of the reasons why I don't think it's that harsh and also why I think it's very valid in this episode. My brain made this connection again a while ago. And at first, it was just kind of like a fleeting thought because it was just like, I actually think I started thinking about this while I was still in a campus ministry, which should tell you something. But over the years and over, having lived in a college town and seen from both the inside and outside perspective of attending and being a part of a campus ministry, I have never believed in something more ever, really, in my life, that I am convinced that these campus ministries are a pyramid scheme. First off, I'll explain what a campus ministry is and what a pyramid scheme is. And throughout this episode, I have a whole script, not a script, but like a whole outline. Your girl, she did some work. That hyperfixation is really, kicking my ass, honestly. I am going to explain first what a campus ministry is. If you don't know, it's kind of what it sounds like, but essentially most colleges, especially bigger universities like public universities, have basically college church for college students. And typically, I mean, not all the time, but typically these clubs are kind of like subsets or sponsored sort of by a church in the area. So the vast majority of the students that are like the leaders in these clubs are also attendants of whatever church they go to, and they do encourage their students to go there. They're the people that they recruit into these ministries to go there. Typically a pretty good size of students, usually get together on a day of the week to have like a sermon service and like a mingling time, music, worship, or whatever. And then they're encouraged to go to church on Sunday. And then they'll have like, a lot of places have like small groups. I just call them small groups. That's like a universal name for them, but there's a bunch of different names for them. Connection groups, care groups, whatever, the list goes on. But basically they're just smaller groups of these students that go to this ministry, meeting up. And usually the leader of this group is like the person who facilitates the conversation. They typically talk about whatever was talked about in the big group meeting of that week. Whatever Bible verse or book of the Bible they're going through. And then it's kind of meant to serve as like a sisterhood, brotherhood, whatever, like places, because they're also separated by sex, which I also think is interesting. But that's basically what a campus ministry is. A pyramid scheme is, as defined by Oxford Dictionary, I believe, a fraudulent business model that involves making money by recruiting new members rather than selling products or services. Now, pyramid schemes are illegal, but there are product-based pyramid schemes, and that kind of get away with operating because they do sell a product, and those are probably what you've heard of a little bit more, maybe or maybe not. Those are called MLMs, or multi-level marketing businesses. And an MLM is the practice, or multi-level marketing is the practice of selling goods or services on behalf of a company in a system whereby participants receive commission on their sales as well as the sales of any participants they recruit. So to kind of give you a visual, a literal pyramid scheme, right? So you've got the people at the very, very top. You've got like two people at the very, very top. Those two people each recruit 3 people, and those 3 people each recruit 5 people. And then it goes on and on and on and on and on. And then the people at the bottom really don't make any money because there is just not physically enough people on this planet to sustain a like successful pyramid scheme in which everyone is making a livable wage or making money or not losing money. So that's why they're illegal, because it's just not ethical at all. And the people at the top, whoever gets in earliest, essentially are the people who are going to make the money. MLMs are very, very similar. They essentially will be selling a good or service, and typically it's like some rinky-dinky essential oil or or some sort of, which I'm telling you, I have experience with all of this growing up, and which we're gonna dig into later. But Ooh, girl, the amount of colds that I had that were solved with Young Living, solved, I put in the biggest quotation marks. Anyway, I digress. But yes, I mean, not to say, I do think that essential oils have uses, but they're not always medicinal. Those uses aren't always, supposed to replace, like, science. And they do smell very good. I'm not discounting them. But I'm really looking at the companies that are selling these things. Typically, they're very unethical, and typically they're really, really dependent upon recruitment, which again is more pyramid schemey than MLM-y. Typically, the way that it works is they'll recruit somebody. In order for them to be recruited, they have to buy like a starter kit of like 50 bottles of oils, and then they have to sell that to other people, and whatever, there's a percentage of the sales that they sell, the people who recruited them get commission on that, and then the people who recruited that person get commission on them and the person under them, and it's just like a whole thing. If you've ever been reached out to by a MLM hun, is kind of what they're called. They're basically typically women who reach out to people, cold calling them or cold messaging them, trying to get them to join the company. It is an out of body experience. I don't know what was happening. I actually got reached out to by a company representative that I won't say the company name per se, but it was like one of those health food, health wellness, skinny tea, skinny coffee, like drink this coffee for 5 days and your ass will get fat and your waist will be snatched to the gods, like that, which makes no sense, because I mean, I guess coffee is a diuretic. I do be having a good little movement of bowels after I drink my espresso, but that's not the point. I can do that at home. I don't need to pay like $50 for some coffee packets of powdered milk and instant coffee. I just don't think that's right. But anyway, I got reached out to somebody like a couple years ago. I think it was like a little over a year ago actually, and I looked into the company they were promoting, and when I told them that it was fraudulent and that it was an MLM, they got so mad. And then I think they blocked me on Instagram. It was really funny. Anyway, campus ministries are a little bit of both the pyramid scheme and the MLM, because they are technically selling you something. So friendship, experiences, the gift of salvation, etc., which we will also get into, how salvation is very commodified, and if you don't have it, it's definitely something that can be used as a weapon against you. But these are all intangible things, which not only can intangible things not be measured monetarily, they can also be incredibly subjective. So there's no way to kind of measure the success or the satisfaction of the person within this system. However, what is not subjective is the amount of money these ministries rake in through the events and church tithes they encourage these young people to go to and participate in order to achieve, obtain, and maintain those intangible things I was talking about earlier. So like friendship, experiences, salvation, etc. Hence the reason why these do qualify as a scam. So let's dive a little deeper into why. First of all, campus ministries do have a pitch, and pyramid schemes also have a pitch, or MLMs. I'm just going to use them kind of interchangeably, pyramid schemes and MLMs, because they're essentially the same thing. They'll either reach out to you in cold messages, or they'll just display on their own pages that like, hey, look at where I'm at. I'm making 6 figures. I'm making 5 figures a week or a month or whatever. I just came from Turks and Caicos, and I'm driving a 2027 Cadillac Escalade, and I'm just living life. You can do this too. That's basically kind of what the pitch is. It's like, you should join because I want your life to look like this too, and you should want your life to look like this too, to have these lavish vacations and these making all this money and having all of this success. With campus ministries, the similarity in that is that it's not as ostentatious, I would say, as MLMs are, but it's a lot more strategic in that way. So, and honestly, a little bit more insidious in my opinion, because MLMs, you can kind of like spot an MLM from a mile away if they're using all this language that's like, I can work from home for, and spend more time with my family. I could just work from my phone. I didn't know what I was doing 2 years ago, but I got on my phone and I put all of the work in, and whatever amount of work you put in is what you're going to get out of it, blah, 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 blah. All that shit and all that flaunting of the wealth and whatnot, the Lamborghinis and the vacations and whatnot. You can tell that that's not legit, right? But with campus ministries are a lot smarter about, and I think have gotten a lot smarter about how they market themselves to new or incoming students. So from my perspective at my college, a lot of these campus ministries will, when they're tabling at Welcome Week or really anywhere at any other time, they will be playing fun music. And typically that fun music is just Christian rap. It sounds like regular secular music, but it's literally just Lecrae. And a lot of times they will pull you in with free snacks and food. They'll have like Capri Suns or popsicles, especially during the summertime when it's super hot. And they'll oftentimes like put a sign up that says free popsicles or free snacks or whatever. Pull these kids in because obviously we ain't got no money. If we're in college, at least I didn't have no money, so of course I'm gonna go for some free food wherever I can get it, and or free candy, free snacks, whatever. And it doesn't really matter, it's just some sort of incentive. And then of course they're playing the cool music and it's just like, oh my god, this seems really fun. And then they'll go in, they'll put down their contact information, and they won't really tell them much about what it is about, which I'll get into in a little bit. But a lot of these campus ministries are not explicitly saying that they are religious. So it really just seems like a young, like, community service group, or like a fun, hip, sort of like wholesome group. They're not even really saying what they are at all. They're just there, and it's like, okay, they're giving free food. These people are really nice. They're playing really fun music. Like, sure, I'll go. But things do really change once you are already in. And it's really sad because for me, like, as someone who came to college from out of state, like very far out of state, I definitely was a vulnerable person in terms of, like, coming to a new place that was very different, way less diverse than where I'd come from before. None of my friends from high school were there. And I didn't know anybody. I was the perfect candidate for this because, granted, I was a Christian when I first started going to college. So I kind of wanted, or I was definitely recommended that I get involved in a group like this. And I think that affected my attitude towards it. But I can only imagine if I was like a non-believer or non-Christian or just someone who wanted to have community, going into a space like this and thinking that, oh, like, these people want to be my friends, these people want to provide community to me, which is something I really want, only to realize a few weeks or a few months later that they really just wanted to convert me. They don't really see you as a person. They see you as a soul or a potential new, member of the kingdom. And that's really sad. And I'm sure a lot of people are right about now, because Welcome Week was a couple weeks ago and they're still tabling sporadically. Like, I'm sure some people might be feeling that and may not have the strength to really leave, which we will get into in just a bit. Moving on to branding. So obviously pitch is a big thing, but branding kind of goes hand in hand with pitch. So I think it's very important to note that a lot of MLMs have really, like, vague names, but kind of cool names, like doTERRA, Sensi, Jamberry, Herbalife, It Works, Optavia. Like these are very like, also they're kind of appealing to like a younger audience, like almost kind of new age, some of it, like Young Living, like, ooh, what is that? I'm young and I want to live. Like, ooh, like it's just like very interesting, and it makes you kind of want to figure out what it's all about. And that is very, very, very true for campus ministries as well in terms of their branding. You'll note that a lot of ministries don't explicitly mention religion even in their names. So just to name a few that are at my college specifically, these are not just at my college, but these are some ones that I know. There's Chi Alpha, sounds like a sorority to me. There's SALT. What the hell is that? That's that NaCl. Like I don't know. I don't know what that is. There's Veritas, Young Life, etc., etc. The list goes on. And typically, none of these obviously mention. I just showed you how one can mistake any of these for something completely unrelated to religion. Also, in terms of branding, even like on their social media and just in general, a lot of the sort of image is framed as like, it's like a fun group that's just meant for young people. It's very innocent framing. It's very like, oh, let's go on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night and spend some time with these really cool people, with people your age. We get to sing songs. We get to eat free food. Like all of that. It's very much played up. And again, I think that's intentional. In fact, I've actually heard people say, like when I was in campus ministry, like get them in with this free stuff, and like even if they just want to come for a slice of pizza, that's totally fine. But eventually we want them to ask questions. We want them to talk to us about Jesus, and we want to talk to them about Jesus. And it's like, okay, slow your roll. Okay, pipe down, honey buns. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm lost. You lost me. But yeah, it's very innocent framing, and eventually once you are again in the group, a lot of it starts to kind of seep through where people will share their testimonies, and they'll say, this is a life-changing group for me, and this was, essentially like, the best decision I ever made, blah 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 blah. And then you're really kind of led to stay even longer because you're like, life-changing, if this is going to change my life, that seems really cool. Once you were in things became very pushy, and it's like it wasn't good enough to just go to the service and go to be a part of the group as a person. They wanted you to take that next step, whether that was, share your testimony in front of the congregation and get baptized, whether that was becoming a C group leader, whether that was going on missions, whatever. There was this whole thing. They would say like, what more can you do for the kingdom? Maybe it's not enough that it's not enough, really. Not maybe, it just is not enough that you are attending this place and you're doing this not just to help other people, I guess, and if you're religious, to quote unquote help other people by leading them to Jesus, but also you're there for you as well, for community, and for to foster that relationship with God, which is like what the whole reason why they want you to come in and join the group in the first place. So it's very interesting when you get there and they're like, they become very, very like pressuring, like you're not doing enough. There's always more that you can do. Like being here is not enough. And I feel like that is really sad, and again, very indicative of like an MLM-y sort of thing, like language. MLMs start off as like, this is very low commitment, like in terms of their branding, like this is low commitment, I do this from my phone, I'm just making all this money, like making bank, like yeah, I'm spending racks, like just like very boastful, honestly. Like I'm fine, like my thing is, if I ever made a lot of money, y'all will never know. I'm sorry, like you ain't gonna know. I'm gonna donate to some charities anonymously. I'm gonna pay for my car. I'm gonna give my sister and her boyfriend some money for a house. Pay off my friends' debts, and then go into hiding, and you will never see me again. I mean, that's not true. I'm just kidding. But like, point being, like, I don't like the very flashy sort of way that MLMs brand themselves, honestly. Because again, but honestly, I'm glad that they do that, because again, that's a surefire way to spot them. But again, with MLMs, just like with campus ministries, they frame it as very innocent, very low commitment. Like, this is just a great way to make passive income. Very simple, very easy, very demure, very cutesy. But it actually isn't at all. None of those things. Once they actually get you to join, it's an immediate switch, and it's like, okay, what are you doing? You need to be calling these people. You need to be texting 50 people a day that you don't know. Text everybody in your contacts list. You need to create your downline, which is, again, weird language. We gonna talk about it. But like, all of it is just like very deceptive in terms of their branding, because what they are branding looks nothing like what being an actual recruit looks like. Because these people that are, showing off all of their wealth are the people that are at the top or higher up in the company. When you join as a recruit, like, it is very unlikely that you are going to get to that point. But they don't want you to know that. They want you to think that everybody can do this, and everybody can amass a certain level of wealth, but that's just not the case in an MLM. Moving on to group dynamics. Ooh, whoo, okay. This is a little bit of a trigger warning, because I'm going to discuss some of my own personal experiences from now on, really, in the episode. So trigger warning for depression and manipulation, sort of like almost like groupthink kind of, and just like being X'd out, really, and not supported by the people who are meant to support you by their own words and definition. The group dynamics of MLMs are very fraught, obviously. I mentioned a little bit before. It's very much like, what can you do? Once you get in, it's like, you need to put in X amount of work and time and commitment and energy into this in order for it to work for you, right? There is mention of mentors. You need to look at your mentors and look at what they're doing and follow by their example, and they're going to be your guides. And there is very much this like hierarchy of like, if somebody is being really, really rude to you and they're in your quote unquote upline, which are all the people above you, like, it's just seen as like, oh, like, this is tough love. Like, yeah, I know that you just gave birth to a child, but like, I still need you to text these people, and they have to be that way, because if you are not doing well, then they're really not doing well, right? Because of, again, that pyramid sort of model, where it's like, they're going to get more money if you end up getting more money, or if you end up selling a certain amount of stuff. So it's very dicey. And that is unfortunately a lot of what I experienced when I was in a campus ministry. There are also mentors in campus ministries, and they are kind of seen as like your big sis or your big bro. And I guess this is a good place to kind of mention the fact that these groups, like these small groups especially, were split up by sex, which is like not uncommon in a lot of religious circles, but I do think it's worth mentioning, because if they identify as trans or if they identify as non-binary, then there's not really a place for them, and I think it's by design that there's not really a place for them. And if they were to go to their care group leader or this mentor of theirs and explain that to them, then they would be hit with the, oh, well, this is just a personal struggle that you're going through. We will love you through this. We will work through this with you, but you are meant to be in this because this is what you were assigned at birth, blah, 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 blah. So very transphobic, just not great, right? And even without that, I actually talked to, oh my God, this person is never going to listen to this, but after I had left, it was like maybe 6 months after I'd left this campus ministry, I ended up seeing one of the male mentors, like one of the guys who was like ahead of a connection group. I saw him and I talked to him, and I did not mean for this. I was working at the time at the store. And so I was doing my job. But I was, just walking around, and we like made eye contact. I was like, oh shit. And he like came up to me. We started talking, and he was like, oh, how are you doing? I was, oh, like I haven't seen you at insert campus ministry name. I'm not going to say it. I almost said it. And I was like, yeah, well, that's because it's fucked up. I didn't say that. I still had a weird relationship with cursing at the time. And so I didn't say that, but I basically told him, I was like, this ministry did a number on me, and I really disagree with the way that things are run there, and the doctrine and the really, regressive and unhelpful, sorts of things that are taught there. I just don't like it. It's the dogma is awful. I don't know why I brought this up. I think I was just thinking about it, but I was like, the way that these care groups are split up by gender is really interesting. Like, I don't understand like what the point of that is. And he was like, so you think that we should join? He was like so scandalized. He was like, so you think that we should join together? We should have young girls get together. Oh my God. This is all coming back to me and so fucking funny. He said, so you think that we should have girls and guys in the same connection group? And I was like, yeah, to make it equal. Like, I don't understand why they're separate. Why are they separate? And he was like, that's crazy, because what if one of the guys, I shit you not, listener, I shit you not, I'm so serious, this is exactly what he said. He said, what if one of the guys is struggling with pornography, and it always comes back to porn, pornography, and his girlfriend and him happen to be in the same care group, and then he's talking about his struggles, and maybe she struggles with that same thing, then it would lead to them enabling each other in this pornography addiction. So why that's such a dangerous model to include everybody and to mix the gender. Oh my God. I died. I was on the clock, but I was like fully about to clock out just so I could go laugh on the street for 10 minutes. Because I swear to God. Oh, what? In what world is that going to happen? There's so many things to unpack here. One, I could talk about this in another episode. I have thoughts on porn. I personally don't have anything against consuming it or anything like that. I do think there are a lot of issues with the porn industry in terms of exploitation, in terms of consent, in terms of paying people what they are for their work, in terms of the standards that in the expectations that it can create for a lot of young people, especially young men, but also young women. They might feel pressured or feel upset when they can't perform what people are literally being paid to do and like are professionals at. Like, if they can't perform in that way, obviously there could be a little bit of a disillusionment there. Like, so yes, I have issues with the porn industry, but overall, I don't believe it is a sin or it is a moral failure to consume porn, which, oh my God, that took me so long to reach that conclusion, because the amount of like anti-porn rhetoric that I heard growing up in my home, and then also obviously in this campus ministry, clearly, because that is the first thing that this guy brought up. It's like, what the hell? Yeah, so there's a very, very concerted effort to keep men and women separate in these sort of ministries. The only time they really come together is during like big events like conferences, or during like the one service per week that they go to where everybody is in the big congregation and they're all singing, etc., etc. So it's very rare that there will be like any sort of like intimate or like deep conversation really with the opposite sex at all, because it would lead to sin, or it would lead to dual pornography addiction apparently. So yeah, it's crazy, but that's not the worst of it, might I say. In order to become a mentor or a leader, you have to go through a very, very, very invasive interview process. So I guess I never mentioned how long I was in this ministry for. I don't know if I did, but I was in this campus ministry for about 2 years, starting in freshman year, and I left in April of 2021. And I had tried different ministries as well. So this is not just about one specific ministry experience. It's pretty universal in most of them, honestly. But I was in this one for most of the time, so like for about 2 years. I was so in it because, again, even though I was already a Christian, I still got sucked in terms of like, this is your best way of community. Like, you want to hang out with all other Christians, not with non-Christians, unless you're trying to convert them, like very much that. So all of my friends were in this ministry as well. And one of the biggest milestones or like achievements, I guess, was to become one of these care group leaders or connection group leaders, whatever, life group, whatever. In order to do that, you have to be so candid and transparent, but to a like violating degree. So for my particular process, I had to answer, these were all short answer questions, and they were varying from like, what's your testimony? How did you become a Christian? What's your relationship with God? All the way to like, how would you evangelize in this situation? Or like, how would you handle this? How would you handle that? And so, and then also like, have you been baptized? Like, it was very interesting. I was like, okay, why does this matter? Like, I get the whole like, what's your testimony? Like, you obviously want to be a Christian, I guess, if you're gonna be mentoring all of these people who you want to also become Christians at some point. But the rest of the questions were like really interesting and seemingly very arbitrary. But that's not the worst part. We finally get to a chart on this application. And again, this is just the application. This isn't even like the actual interview, which was very weird, which we will get into in just a second. Don't you worry. But this is honestly one of the most egregious things that I have ever witnessed or seen in this campus ministry. And one of the things that I will remember like forever. But we get to a chart on this application page that names, it's a list, a chart full of sins, quote unquote. It's like masturbation, lying, cheating, sexual sin, like, you know, premarital sex was on there. All of these things, right? Mind you, I'm looking at this chart. I'm like, whoa, what is this about? And then I finally look at the header, like I guess the question, and it says, mark all of the sins or issues that you struggle with. You have either struggled with in the past or are currently struggling with. And I was like, what the fuck? Because not only was there stuff like masturbation, pornography, like all of that sexual shit that you expect to be on a chart like that, right? There's also anxiety and depression on this chart. I, at the time, when I was applying, I was doing this during quarantine, like early quarantine, like April 2020. And I was currently living with my parents. I had not been medicated yet. That would not come for another year or so. But I had struggled severely, especially through my freshman year of college. I did have a attempt on my life during my freshman year, and also before that when I was younger. And I had severely been struggling with depression, self-esteem issues, like just anxiety, like really mainly that. That was like one of the biggest issues that I finally got medicated for. But imagine seeing like one of the things that you cannot control, and you have literally ruled your life, honestly, despite your efforts to pray more or to read the Bible more or to, you know, find fellowship with others more, or to just get rid of in any way that you were told to get rid of it. And despite you thinking that, oh, I'm a Christian, I shouldn't be having these issues, blah, 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 I shouldn't be depressed because I have the joy of Jesus in my heart. Despite all of that, right, seeing something like that listed next to lying or sleeping with your girlfriend, I'm sure you can imagine the level of just pure shame and guilt that I felt for having a mental illness just from looking at this chart. And so I went ahead and I marked down depression because I guess it would be a sin of me to not mark down the sin that I've dealt with. Okay. Which, not to be clear, I don't think any of these are sins. Masturbation, I do not think is a sin. Premarital sex, I do not think is a sin. None of these are a sin, really. In my opinion, I don't really believe in, like, I have a moral code, obviously, but a lot of these are based on biblical, like, what, some of them aren't even, because there ain't nothing about masturbation in the Bible. I hope you know that. Fun fact. But yeah, these are based on obviously like a religious code, but I don't think most of, like, 99% of the stuff that was on there is not a sin. And certainly depression is not a sin, right? But I was just saying, like, the way that it's framed as like putting a mental illness next to something like having sex, like, what? And like all under the same umbrella as quote unquote sins. So is it like, what? Fellas, is it a sin to sit in a dark room all day and like not shower for a couple of days because you're depressed? Fellas, tell me, is it a sin to have a panic attack? I need to know. Wow. I'm getting like angry. Oh my God. I was not expecting this like level of emotion. But yeah, anyway, I've been recording for an hour. I need to get through this. After filling that out, went ahead and submitted everything and had the interview, and it was conducted by two people. They were like adults, I guess. I mean, we're all adults, but these were like people who were like working, I guess, like on the payroll of the church. And one of them did like worship, and then the other one was a woman, and she did like, I don't know what she did, honestly. I guess administrative stuff, like, I don't know. They don't spend too much time explaining what the women do in churches. I'm sorry. I don't know. I had no idea. But the interview was done by both of them, and they actually asked me about the depression. They were like, so what have you done to, you know, to work on that? And I'm like, I don't know, like, not killed myself. I feel like that's big. I'm sorry. This is not funny. I'm so sorry. Oh, I gave a big trigger warning, but good God. What? But yeah, it's just like, what do you want me to say to that? I don't know what to say to that. But I don't remember what I said, but I remember they asked me that, and they asked me a couple scenarios, like, say you have a friend and they say they don't need God. What would be your response? They asked me a couple of different questions like that. It was very scripted and very weird. And I answered to the best of my abilities as a good Christian girl. And I didn't get I didn't get it. I wonder why. But basically they said the reasoning was, I think it would be really great for you. Who is a person in your life that you think could use some mentorship? What person in your life is basically like a lukewarm Christian or whatever? She ain't doing her shit. She's a backslider and whatnot. And basically they said you need to start mentor. One of the big traits of a care group leader is that they're already natural leaders in their own life before they become a leader. So I want you to take this person under your wing and start pouring into her and really becoming a spiritual mentor in her life, and then come back next year. Surprise, surprise, I did not come back the next year. I dipped out of that hole. But just really weird. I don't like putting myself above people in terms of like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm more Christian than you. Like, what? Huh? Which that is like the antithesis of a lot of what the Bible says is like, don't be prideful. Like the whole Pharisees bit of like them thinking that they're bad bitches when really like they're not. Like, why would I want to like, why would they put me in that position to think of someone like that? But yeah, they did. And I literally just thought of one of my friends who had joined shortly after, or not shortly after, but she had become part of our care group, I guess. And I, in that moment, thought that she was not as much of a Christian as me. But they made me think about that. And I hate that I thought in that way, because this person didn't deserve to be thought of that way, of like a lesser than person because they are not as Christian as me, which I don't even think is the truth. Because who am I to decide how Christian somebody is? I don't live in their brain. Like, it was really weird. And I didn't end up like quote unquote mentoring this. I think I tried maybe for like a week, and then I was like, fuck this. Like, I have my own shit to deal with, and I'm not going to sit here trying to like reconvert someone who's already a Christian and who I don't think needs somebody telling them to do better. And they told me to befriend non-Christians specifically to convert them as well. I forgot to mention that, but she was like, find this person. Okay, do this one person. I want you to find 4 other people who are either non-believers or they just, whatever, and become friends with them and really pour into them and nourish that relationship and help them nourish their relationship with God and grow it. And I'm like, oh my God, is this like a side quest? Like, what is this? This is like giving like chain email, like send this to 5 other people or you're gonna die. like I don't know. It was just not it. I smell spaghetti. I don't know. It smells good. Anyway, but yeah, so there's that. That's on group dynamics. Isolation. So this kind of goes along with group dynamics. But in MLMs, there is definitely an encouragement to cut out people who do not support you, or to X out the haters who are hindering your quote unquote business. This kind of goes as well for campus ministry. There is a huge encouragement and emphasis on cutting out your faithless friends, so that the only people that you really know are in the ministry or are believers or whatever. And they're basically your only friends, which is essentially what happened to me. I did not have any friends outside of this ministry at all, like at all. And I think that's super unhealthy. One of the reasons obviously is because like I would like diversity of thought, diversity of belief among my friends, not only diversity of gender and identity, but also, again, diversity of ideology, because obviously most of my friends, like pretty much all my friends are like very leftist. Obviously, like I'm talking about like people who have different perspectives on the world. I do want a diversity in several variety of ways, both in thought and in physicality among my friends. And that was definitely not the case with this ministry. First of all, I was one of only 5 black people among guess how many white people? Guess. I'm going to give you a little second to guess. Let me sip on my spray. ASMR. 300, okay? I'm not kidding. And it's probably a lot bigger now. I don't know, maybe not, because a lot of people have moved away and a lot of people are deconstructing and leaving the church. So I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to look into these campus ministries and seeing how they're faring with young people leaving. But yeah, 5 out of about 300 people every single Thursday and Sunday. Really, well, Sunday was different because it had the like parents and stuff there too, but they were also white. So yeah. I bring this up because it is very much like I do think it's a factor. It's like the type of Christianity that's like kind of non-denominational, but really more like pretty Baptist, but without saying it. And they didn't handle or address race very well, especially when George Floyd was murdered. Like, they said, oh, we don't have the ability or the skills really to address this. And I'm like, okay, well then bring somebody in who does. They bring in guest pastors. They brought in guest pastors like pretty consistently, like maybe every couple of months. So I don't understand why that wasn't the case, why nobody thought to do that. Oh, I do understand why. Racism. Anyway, yeah. So I felt isolated not only in a way of like cutting off people who didn't align with, you know, my faith, but also as a Black woman going to this ministry, a sea of people, of white people. And like, here's the thing, I have nothing against white people, obviously. That's not the point that I'm trying to make, but the fact that there is such little diversity and such little consideration for my struggles as a Black person, like, it was just, especially going to a Midwestern university, hello, like, there was nothing really, like, I literally got into it in a group chat during election year, because this was towards the time when I started deconstructing, really. And yeah, like, there was no regard really for issues of race or anything. Isolation is a big thing. There's also very much this, like, they like to quote the scripture of like, bad company corrupts good morals, which is a psalm, I believe. So it's very much like, be careful who you hang around. Like, maybe don't hang out with don't go to parties, and like, don't go to, you know, these social events, and like, make sure you be careful of the people that you allow to mentor you, blah, 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 blah. And minimize time with people who are not helping you on your walk with the Lord, and iron sharpens iron. So don't hang out with a wooden bitch. Like, I don't know what the but yeah, like, as like, I don't know, I guess, but basically I know what they really mean. But like, essentially, like, cut out the people who do not align with you in literally every single aspect of your beliefs. And I was a part of that. I believed, like, oh, she's not a Christian. The plague. Like, it was that bad. I find it incredibly contradictory, because how are you supposed to convert people if you don't talk to them? Oh, actually, there's this thing called evangelizing. And as you see how I set that up, as an evangelical ministry, which pretty much all of them are, literally any of these places probably have some sort of like, you know, gospel 101 or like how to evangelize class. The entire class was spent like learning how to evangelize to other people and to convert other people, like learning about different tactics of how to explain biblical concepts to other people. It was not for us. It was not for us to get a better understanding really of the gospel. It was for us to get a better understanding of the gospel to convert other people. So to that end, and it's so funny. It's not really funny because I'm sure I disturbed several people. So we were supposed to go ask at least 3 random people each week after we were doing this course. These typically two questions from the course that were typically very existential and very loaded. Examples of these questions are: do you think about the afterlife? Who is Jesus to you? Do you think lying is okay? Like shit like that, right? And we would have to go find 3 random ass students just trying to sit down and enjoy their lunch or enjoy whatever they were doing, mind their own business, and ask them these questions and write down their answers. And then we would talk about their answers. These people were just responses like of what non-believers think. Examples is really all that they were, and we would bring them back and talk about how to counter these responses and like how to defend our faith basically against these specific responses. It was batshit, honestly. I was shy, I was anxious, I have social anxiety. Not as much now. I think I might go up to a random person. I don't know. But I just be minding my business. But at the time, again, unmedicated, very anxious girly. So I kind of sinned because I lied. I said that I made up responses and I said that I went it to these people, but I didn't. So sorry. I gotta add that to the sin chart. Oops. Anyway, I just hated the way that we viewed people who did not believe. If you are talking to people who are not quote unquote non-believers, then you're talking to them with the intention of converting them at some point. So you're not friends with them. You don't be friends with them, so because they'll corrupt you if you are friends with them. They'll take you to all the parties and they'll tell you to sleep with your girlfriend if you're friends with them. So don't be friends with them. But you can still get a word in, or get the word in, as they say, for them to ponder on later and then come back to you later, or maybe, quote unquote, plant a seed, because that's another thing that they love to say, which we will talk about very, very quickly, very, very soon. But yeah, literally just there to mine answers from them and look at how awful the non-believers are and how idiotic they are to not believe in Jesus. So yeah, let's talk about language. Christianese is very much a thing. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I just used one of the examples. Planting a seed. Planting a seed. Ooh, it's all about your heart posture. Women aren't unequal, they're just different. How can we do life together? How can we sharpen each other? How can we pour into each other? Note that none of these phrases are in the Bible, yet they have become huge staples among evangelical Christian circles. Language is everything when it comes to these campus ministries, and also when it comes to MLMs, okay? So language is a big thing, and that's also how you'll spot if it's an MLM. It's like, put into it what you'll get out of it, what you put into it, and look at what I'm doing. I'm my own business owner. I'm doing the damn thing. Like, you can be as successful as you want to be. Like, all of these things. Language is very, very important in these circles. And unfortunately, there is a huge language parallel between both MLMs and campus ministries. If you don't succeed in MLMs, so if you're broke, you are literally going into debt by the second, trying to sell, 2-ounce bottles of oil. You just aren't working hard enough. You're not putting enough energy into it. You need to be doing more, right? And the same goes for our campus ministry. If you are struggling or you're feeling depressed or anxious, you just aren't having enough faith. You just aren't leaning on God enough. You just aren't praying enough. You just aren't in your word enough. Everything is ultimately your fault. It's so sad because it's like initially you're thinking you're gonna join this group of people who are loving and caring and supportive, and they act like they are. And like, don't get me wrong, I did meet people who were seemingly okay, I guess. I don't talk to any of them, which I feel like is a sign. But like, they seemed to truly genuinely care, but some of them you could tell that they didn't, though, and they were just trying to be weird. But you get pulled in with these people and you realize like they are like, I won't say single-handedly because there's obviously other factors, but majorly very, very heavily making you feel like shit and like you are not worthy enough, or you are not good enough, essentially, to have good things, or to not feel anxious all the time, or to not feel depressed, or to not have struggles. It's very sad, and I went through it. It was bad. My depression and anxiety were really bad. Some of the worst they've been while I was in that environment. Even though I had done everything I thought I could do. I joined the worship team. I was up there singing. I was, trying to become a secret leader. I was trying to do all these things, right? And it just was not working. And I'm like, I thought I went. Am I not having enough faith? But they always put it back to you. With language as well, there are also, this kind of goes with group dynamics, which again are very important. So of course they're going to come up again. In these ministries, typically there are conferences, and these usually happen like once a semester, I would say. The campus ministry, because they're not just like, they have different chapters basically. All of the campus ministries under that name will meet in one place, and it'll be in typically this huge convention center. There will be people, that they've contracted or whatever to sing, worship, huge worship, big altar call night, or like a worship night that is specifically dedicated to making your heart feel like it's about to spontaneously combust in the most spiritual, supernatural way. And essentially, these conferences are designed to make you feel like you're a part of something special. They're meant to give you the warm and fuzzies. They're meant to make you, like, reignite your love for God and for this ministry, right? And they kind of, like, suck you back in. Like, the amount of times I've cried while I'm worshiping, and just insane. A lot of churches and religion, especially, and not just Christianity, other religions as well, really do draw on the psychology of group and collective worship, or group and collective activity, when you are surrounded by several thousand other young people who are quote unquote just like you, and you're all singing, you're all worshiping, you all have your eyes closed, raising your hands. You genuinely feel like you are part of something like huge, way bigger than yourself. And part of that feeling can be addictive, and also is like, that feeling is not a bad feeling per se, but that feeling is weaponized typically because it makes you want to stay as a part of this ministry. You may have been feeling a little bit of disillusionment lately, but middle of the semester, going to that conference is going to get you really, 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 really on fire for Christ again, and you're not going to want to leave. This is not necessarily with language at all, but just kind of as we're wrapping up with final thoughts, I think it's not a coincidence that a lot of MLMs are rampant among young Christian conservative women, because it offers a way for them to feel some sort of personal efficacy, like in themselves, because they're a quote unquote business owner, they're a director, they're a boss babe, while still being relegated to the very submissive role within their home and marriages. And I think that's a huge parallel to draw between not necessarily the campus ministries, but just like, religion as a whole. I thought about this and I was like, I think it's worth mentioning. It's just like, these women are desperate for something that they can have something of their own that they can, you know, either exert control over or just like have to manage, you know. Obviously, being a stay-at-home mom is a thing, and that's great, and I think it's very hard work. I don't know if it could ever be me. But ultimately their husband is still the head of the house. Their husband still has the last say and makes the final financial decisions, makes the final decisions with how to, you know, parent the kids, all of this stuff. So you really don't have something that's like your baby or something that you can really pour into and in a like meaningful way for that, you know, doesn't feel like it's being infringed upon by your husband or any other person. And so I think that's why a lot of women in those circles fall prey to MLMs, because they're like, oh my God, I can have my own business. I can, you know, work from my phone. I can still be with my kids because I still need to, first and foremost, I am a mom, so I need to do this. And also I am a wife first and foremost, so I need to maintain my relationship with my husband, and you know, I need to make sure I'm available for him all the time and giving him sex all the time and stuff like that. But I won't have to be tired from this job because I'll just be working from my phone, so I won't have to worry about that later. Yeah, it's sad. When you're in a campus ministry and you've been in there for some time, at some point there's simply not enough of those warm and fuzzy feelings to go around for people at the bottom of that pyramid. You eventually start to see the lack of diversity, the clickiness, the uncanny feeling of loneliness, even amongst a room full of people. That's when you either hunker down and ignore those feelings because you've been a part of this for so long. You block out those voices of doubt, and eventually, after inviting so many people in beneath you, just like that MLM, you clamber your way to the top of the pyramid. Or you leave. And that's what I did. If you want me to talk a little bit more about what life has looked like and deconstruction has looked like since leaving, and like kind of what exactly led to me leaving the church, feel free to comment or let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Worthy of Note Pod. It's going to be in the description. You can also follow me at my personal account, since you're already going to be on the app anyway. Just do it. At Lauren J. Carlton on Instagram. I am not going to do an Am I the Asshole today because I don't know how long the episode's actually going to end up being, but I'm looking right now and it's been a full hour and 30 minutes and 35 seconds. So yeah, I kind of didn't prepare an Am I the Asshole for today, but have no fear, they will be back next week. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. I know I talked about some pretty deep stuff in this episode, so please make sure that you are taking care of your brains, your hearts, and your feelings and your soul, if you believe that you have one, of course. Yeah, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.